It's no secret that Sigma men have a reputation for being arrogant and aloof. They often seem to be above it all, detached from social norms and uninterested in what others think of them. But what is the truth behind this perceived arrogance? Is it simply a facade, or is something deeper at play? While there are some reasons for their behavior, there is also much more to the story. Here are 10 truths behind the Sigma man's perceived arrogance. Number 1. Reserved attitude. Sigma men are known for their reserved attitude, which is often misperceived as arrogance. They don't wear their hearts on their sleeves, nor do they tend to share their thoughts and feelings openly. This reserved nature might make it seem like they're cocky or full of themselves, but let's be real. Their reticence isn't about being superior or dismissive of others. It's just how they roll. While the alphas are busy putting on a show and the betas are hustling for approval, the Sigma is in his own world, comfortable in his own skin, not needing to impress or please anyone. He may not be the life of the party, but he's got a life outside the party. This reservation is just a way to maintain his independence and not play the usual social games. But just because he's not revealing his every thought doesn't mean he's looking down on you. People often mistake this selective silence for arrogance, when it's actually a choice to keep the inner world guarded. While everyone around him is talking and competing for attention, the Sigma is simply observing and only speaking when necessary. Number 2. Selective engagement. Sigma men don't go around kissing babies and patting backs just to be liked. They won't be the ones to engage in a conversation just for the sake of it. They choose their battles wisely, engaging in discussions and activities that truly matter to them. This selective engagement might rub some people the wrong way, branding these men as arrogant or antisocial, but that's simply not the case. Sigma men don't feel the need to fill every silence with chatter, nor do they feel compelled to jump into every conversation. They're big on substance over the show, preferring to engage when they have something meaningful to contribute. They might not be joining in on that heated debate about who's the best quarterback of all time or jumping in on that office gossip, but that's not due to arrogance. It's about conserving their energy for stuff that really sparks their interest. This can be misinterpreted as thinking they're too good for specific discussions or people, but they just don't feel the need to join in unless it has value to them. It's not a superiority complex, it's a selectivity complex. There are too many people who simply don't use their brain cells when they speak, and Sigma men don't have time for that. And that's not arrogance, it's just good judgment. Number 3. Unapologetic authenticity. Sigma males are as real as it gets. They're not the ones to put on a mask or pretend to be someone they're not. There are no fake smiles, no pretend laughter or shallow small talk. They are who they are, and they don't apologize for it. If they don't like something, they won't pretend otherwise for the sake of politeness or to fit in. And that can come across as arrogance to those who are used to the usual social niceties and pretentious charm. They show the raw, unfiltered version of themselves to the world, whether you like it or not. They won't sweeten their words or change their opinions because it might hurt someone's feelings. If you ask them for an opinion, brace yourself for some brutal honesty. They're not being mean. They're just being truthful. And in a world where people are so used to being spoon-fed comforting lies, this kind of honesty can be jarring and mistaken for arrogance. But that's just Sigma men being Sigma men. They're not about to change their authenticity for anyone. If that comes across as arrogance, so be it. They'd rather be labeled arrogant for being genuine than be praised for being fake. Number 4. Lack of conformity. These men aren't the typical sheep following the herd. They have their own path, and they're sticking to it, come hell or high water. You might find them straying from traditional career paths or turning their backs on societal norms that don't vibe with their own personal values. They're not about to bend over backward to fit into a mold that's not meant for them. This kind of non-conforming behavior can rub a lot of people the wrong way. It's like everyone's moving to the beat of a certain drum, and then there's the Sigma man, grooving to his own tune. People see this, and they're like, who's this guy thinking he's too good to follow the rules? They see him marching to his own beat, and they misinterpret it as arrogance. But it's not arrogance. It's about being unafraid to be different. A Sigma man doesn't play by the rules because he's not interested in the game. He has his own game going with his own set of rules. He doesn't conform because he doesn't see the need to. He has his own thing going, and he's cool with that. So people might see this lack of conformity as arrogance, but it's really just Sigma doing his own thing, being true to himself. And if that comes off as arrogance, then that's their problem, not his. Number 5. Dislike for trivial small talk. Did you know that the average person spends about 60% of their conversation time engaging in small talk? This is a nightmare scenario for Sigma men. These men are not big fans of trivial small talk. They don't see the point in discussing the weather, the latest celebrity gossip, or the mundane details of someone's weekend. And they certainly don't engage in empty chit-chat just to fill the silence. This distaste for small talk is often misinterpreted as arrogance, but it's far from it. Sigma men crave meaningful connection and purposeful dialogue. They prefer to delve into deeper discussions about life, ideas, goals, and anything stimulating the intellect. Their silence in the face of small talk isn't them looking down on you or thinking they're superior. It's simply them opting out of a conversation that they find pointless or unfulfilling. The Sigma's mind is always buzzing with thoughts, ideas, and questions, and they'd rather keep their own company than engage in shallow dialogue. This aversion to trivial chatter is not a sign of arrogance, but a reflection of their desire for substance and depth in their interactions. They are not disrespecting people. They are simply choosing authenticity over superficiality. Number 6. Unconventional thinking. Just because these individuals don't conform to the usual way of doing things doesn't mean they're arrogant. They're not trying to be rebellious or prove a point. This is just how their brains work. They're always seeking new perspectives and finding different solutions to problems. They're not afraid to challenge authority or question societal norms if they don't make sense. But this can be seen as superiority by those who are more comfortable with the familiar and the safe. However, Sigma men aren't looking for validation from others. They're just doing what feels right to them. And if that comes across to some as arrogance, then so be it. They'll keep marching to the beat of their own drum, unconventional thinking and all. Thinking out of the box can be confusing or even threatening to some people. It challenges their own beliefs and forces them out of their comfort zones. So when Sigma offers a different perspective, it can be misinterpreted as an attempt to belittle others' ideas. But these men are just sharing their unique way of thinking, not trying to put anyone down. And isn't that what diversity of thought is all about? Number 7. Skepticism towards authority. Nothing gets under the skin of authority figures more than someone who doesn't blindly follow their orders. So when Sigma questions authority and doesn't fall in line with the rest of the sheep, that's a recipe for conflict. But this skepticism towards authority is not born out of arrogance. It's rooted in his independent nature and his desire to think for himself. He doesn't blindly accept what he's told, and he will always question those in power if something doesn't seem right. This can be seen as arrogance by those who are used to being obeyed, but for Sigma men, it's just part of their DNA. They don't have a problem with authority per se, but they won't hesitate to challenge it if they believe it's necessary. This mindset can be intimidating to those who are used to being in control and having their orders followed without question. Not only does it threaten their sense of power, but it also exposes their own insecurities. That's why Sigma men are often seen as troublemakers. Number 8. Having a really small circle of friends. Having a large group of friends is not something Sigma males strive for. They're not interested in being the life of the party or having a ton of acquaintances. All they need are a few trusted friends. They value quality over quantity when it comes to friendships and prefer deep connections with a select few rather than superficial relationships with many. People usually see this as arrogance, thinking that Sigmas believe they are too good for most people, but they just have high standards for who they let into their inner circle. This doesn't mean they think less of others. It's simply a personal preference. They don't need validation or a large group of friends to feel fulfilled. While the alpha males can't help but be the center of attention and have a large group of followers, Sigma men are okay with being in the background and having a small but loyal circle. Number 9. Mysterious and confident persona. Many people think Sigma men have a secret they're not sharing, and they're not entirely wrong. These individuals have a mysterious aura that draws people in, but also keeps them at arm's length. They don't open up easily or share personal details with just anyone. This can be seen as superiority by some, but it's more of a protective measure for these men. They may come across as confident and self-assured, which can be intimidating to others who are less secure in themselves. But this confidence doesn't come from an inflated ego. It comes from knowing themselves and being comfortable with who they are. Their silent demeanor and reflective nature are often wrongly equated with a lack of interest in others, reinforcing the image of arrogance. However, Sigma men are just thinking and processing things internally rather than constantly seeking external validation. Number 10. Setting clear boundaries. These individuals are not afraid to define their personal limits and communicate them clearly to others. They know what they want and what they're willing to tolerate, and they won't hesitate to let others know when those boundaries have been crossed. This can be perceived as egotism because it challenges the notion that everyone should just go with the flow and not make waves. But setting boundaries is not about asserting dominance or control. It's about self-preservation and maintaining a sense of autonomy. These men value their independence and will protect it fiercely, even if that means appearing arrogant in the eyes of others. It's not about being difficult or stubborn. It's about respecting their own needs and boundaries. And that is something admirable, not arrogant.